what we've got today is Ray Mulligan and Lawrie Brown to talk about their Australian Traditional Music Archive. Okay.
Hopefully, yeah. Wakey. Yeah. Ray, you can jump in and go first.
Ray and Lawrie. Cheers.
Well, good afternoon.
Can you use the microphone?
So you're going to use the microphone.
Use the microphone, I have a quiet voice. So what is the archive? Well, the Australian Traditional Music Archive serves as something of a repository of Australian post-settlement music heritage. The main purpose of the archive is to provide an easily accessible library of music that documents and represents the music played by Australia's settlers and their descendants. It's primarily dance music. While some of this music is contemporary in its origin, all of it is cradled in British and more generally in European cultural heritage that reaches back through recent centuries. I've heard it said that Australia has no folk music. It's not true. What we have is what we have brought with us as settlers, and we play it in Australia in ways that are unique. They're different and they reflect the culture here. I see the Australian music and the way it's played as untroubled. And if you go to other parts of the world and hear their music, it's different. Some of it is quite troubled. So why did it come into existence? It turns out to be just the next step in a process and in the life of the music as filtered through in Australia. The initial move to preserve this began in the 1950s with people like John Meredith. Not talk about John, but there are many others who shared the task. In Folk Songs of Australia, Volume 1, Meredith talks about growing up in Holbrook, and his father was a shearer and was away a lot of the time, and he died when Meredith was young, so his mother was quite influential. He acquired a button accordion and was exposed to the music through family settings and community settings there. And later in life, as he grew up and became an adult, he ended up in Sydney. And in this, in Folk Song, Volume 1 of FSA, he talks about a light bulb moment. So he was learning music and picking this stuff up for personal use. And then his light bulb moment, and I'll quote, is Hilda Lane of North Sydney first demonstrated the possibility of oral collecting when she told me that she knew of an old shearer who still sang old bush songs. This was Jack Hoopine Lee, and as a result of meeting him and hearing him sing, I brought a tape recorder and began searching out old performers. Joe Cashmere was the next performer I visited, followed by Arthur Buchanan and Edward Goodwin. So that's in the early 50s. He realised that you could collect this stuff. Several of, and which Meredith did to great effect and to great extent. And personally, I'm grateful, I think we all are, that he did that, but he wasn't the only one. Several of Meredith's contemporaries were also interested in material. Norm O'Connor, of course, was the chap in Melbourne, and he found Simon MacDonald, who's already been mentioned. There were others at the time who devoted much of their lives to collecting the music and the stories that went with it. But what do you do when you've been collecting material for a couple of decades? It turns out that you can publish it. Well, Meredith did, so there were books. Peter Ellis, Dave DeSanti through Karawabiti Press. You can give workshops. I remember in the 90s going to workshops with Dave DeHuga, Peter Ellis, Chris Sullivan, Jack O'Kevins, and the concerts that they gave. So that was part of my personal journey in being introduced to this music and just learning it. Then there were records, CDs, and I have plenty of those, I'm sure we all do. And the fourth one is to preserve it. Well, what Meredith did was give it to the National Library, as a number of others here have done. And the National Library holds a massive collection of, I don't know, the last figure I heard was 55,000 hours. It's probably more than that by now. And it now comprises the core or the backbone of this heritage, Australian heritage. So why an archive? So we've created this Bush Traditions Archive, and I didn't set out to do that. I set out to just collect music that I enjoyed playing. I picked up an accordion in the mid-80s. I started taking an interest in collected Australian music by 1990. I bought the books, I got the CDs, I attended workshops, played with friends. But by 2000 I noticed, and a lot of this happened at the National Folk Festival. By 2000 I noticed that these sources had begun to dry up. This material was collected largely between 1950 and the years 2000. Publications disappear with time as print runs run out. And who can play a CD these days? And too many have passed too soon. Newer generations can be expected to chase it down for themselves, but accessing the NLA collection is a daunting task. Who in their right mind would walk into the National Library and interrogate 50,000 hours of recordings and hope to make sense of it? Some people have had a go, and what I've done, well, the archive, as I set out to, as it evolved, just provides a simple and inexpensive way of accessing some of this material. So by 1999, I noticed that sources were drying up, and there wasn't so much of it around at the National Folk Festival. So I decided I needed to do something about that to keep the tunes in public view. In 2001, I started running sessions around Canberra. And when you start running sessions, instead of just writing them down for yourself, you've got to write them down for others in order to pass them on and share them. 2003, I started running sessions at the National Folk Festival, which I've done, I think it's the 19th year I've done it. 2005, with Dennis O'Keefe, I ran 4 90-minute sessions in the session bar. Dennis would sing and I would play, and we did it alternately. That was tough going by the end. In 2006, I started with Greg O'Leary, and Greg deserves a special mention. Greg's still with us. Greg's input has been massive. Greg and I shared the task of choosing tunes, and Greg shaped the character of the tunes that appear in the archive. He's had a big influence. And in addition to that, with the 940 tunes that are now in this archive, Greg personally recorded somewhere in the region of 650, 660. A massive effort. My role has been that of a publisher. People have gone into the library, people who've recorded it have transcribed these tunes. Where I've come across them, in workshops, in wherever, I've sort of collected them, just assembled them, and put them into books. So that what we did with the sessions at the National Folk Festival was we'd pick the tunes, I'd produce the book, Greg would record them. So I had a book that had the dots, because the audience could be divided into 2 groups, those who could read and those who didn't want to read, they just wanted to listen. And I figured they were a 50-50 split. So we ended up with books with a CD in the back, which I did for the first 7 or 8 years. Then along came technology, and in 2014 at New Morale I approached Lawrie and inquired if there was any chance of putting it on the web. He sensibly said he was busy, but he did it anyway. So at this point, I'll hand over to Lawrie and he'll talk to you about more about the wiki first and then the archive.
Okay, thanks, Ray. So my role here is much more as the technical person. My background is, and I'm an IT academic now, sort of retired. Only retired as academics get. We fade into the woodwork. I was also a systems admin with the PC Users Group here in the Australian Unix Users Group. So I had some background in running computer systems and building websites. I'm a keen dancer, as some of you will know, across a wide variety of styles, including being in the Monaro colonial dances for a couple of decades. As Ray mentioned, he raised the issue of getting a website for the archive, and part of what at that time we were hoping we could do with the website was have collaborative editing of the material, so it didn't all have to funnel through one person. That pretty much pushed me towards using a wiki or a content management system, and so I hope some of you might have seen the Bush Traditions Wiki, which went online in 2015 and was live for a good decade. It was based on a fairly widely used package known as MediaWiki, which is actually the system behind Wikipedia, which I assume just about everybody here has probably come across, so very widely used and respected package. However, it wasn't designed to support displaying music notation. It was extensible, and so I wrote some extensions that meant we could put the ABC in and you saw dots come out. And there were also things to help with entering the ABC and the tune code initially, and with supporting searching of that content with some knowledge of the music. It worked. There were a number of editors, mainly Ray, but was able to dive in and make changes to those, as I said, 900 plus tunes that we put in there over the 10 years that the wiki was there. So the content did get created and revised. We did bulk import the tunes from each year of the collections that Ray's talked about doing, and that is the vast majority of the content in there. There's a handful of other tunes that come in separately, but most came from the session handbooks. The downside, though, was that the MediaWiki system was big and complex, and unfortunately every time they upgraded it, they broke the extensions I'd written to support the music content. And by about 2019, it was becoming clear to me this was just not going to be sustainable in the long term. I could do it, but it was a lot of work every time. And so we decided we really needed a simpler, more robust, maintainable system. And that is now the Australian Traditional Music Archive, which is the current version of the system, which is a complete and total rewrite of the original, with the aim of much easier maintenance, and more importantly, it can actually be rendered into a form that if we drop dead, we can actually get a tree of the website that literally is just a bunch of plain HTML files, text files, music recordings that you can unzip on your computer and navigate and look at. You won't be able to update it, as I'll talk about in a second, but at least everything would be there, and that was a big part of what we wanted. So the background, there's about 50 scripts, some 5,000 lines of code that I've written and debugged over the last year and a half or so. Still debugging, of course, that's computing for you. And the idea is it takes a core set of tunes. You have the ABC code for the music, you have some text files to talk about the people, because that's one of the other things that was in the wiki as well. It's not just a straight collection of tunes with no links between them. We actually have pages about the people who were the collectors, the people it was collected from, the people who've played the music for us, so put it all there, and they were all linked together. And that was one of the things I think that we're offering here that you don't see in most of the other archives around the place. And as these are all indexed and cross-linked. So what was the downside? We had to drop the collaborative editing. That was supporting that was actually a fair bit of where the complexity came from. So it's now a vastly more simpler website, but changes all have to funnel through one bunny, which is me at the moment. The other thing is we switched hosting services for various reasons, as well as the the problems of supporting MediaWiki, our whole hosting service, for reasons I understand, but they've made it much more difficult to get in there and make changes behind the scene. They were funneling you through a web interface that just didn't work for the way I built the system. And that also meant I just couldn't upgrade the old system. So we're now on a new hosting service, Venture IP, which is in Sydney, so it's local. I said very quickly, the idea of the APNA site is there's a master site. That's the one that you would mostly be using, but behind the scenes it can make copies of itself. In particular, it can make this snapshot that you can think of this is an archival copy of the entire system. It's a zip file, you can take it, you can unzip it on your computer, and you can literally browse away. If I have time, we're going to run out, I could show you the local version as against the live version. There's also a possibility of running a local live copy. You do need to run a web server for that, so that's really only for the propeller geeks like me. And the other interesting thing, which is still evolving, is I've also turned the website into a single PDF book. It's a very big PDF, it's 1,300 pages, approximately 35 megabytes, but that's the entire website. It's every tune, every page of information about the people, with the links between them.
Wow.
Hopefully I'll show, and I'll make the point, the idea of that is Ray really wants this stuff not to disappear. We've already heard one of the problems with publications is they go out of print. In Australia, every publication is supposedly lodged with the National Library. Now, they do a pretty good job of grabbing websites, but that's not their core thing. A PDF is a book. The National Library understand books. And so the intention is, when this settles down, hopefully later this year, Bush Traditions are going to publish the Australian Traditional Music Archive as a PDF, and we will lodge it with the National Library and say, it's under Creative Commons copyright, so license. People can download it, use it for free. We want you to make it available so it will be there. So even if we keel over, if the website dies, there will be a version that we hope to keep going. Did I just skip a slide there? Oh yes, I actually want to demonstrate this, don't I? Let's get out of that. Come on. Oh, the system's a little slow when it's on. Ah, there we go. No. Okay, why? Oh, I have to move this, don't I? Sorry, I'm not used to using a projector. Come on, mouse, where are you? There we go. I want to move you sideways. Now I have to turn around because I can't see it. Okay. Alright, so this is the website. It's at austragmusic.au. I wanted to very quickly run through some of the features which we're going to run out of time. If you go to the site, can I point you to the page here that's called Getting Started? That gives you a quick introduction. I'm not going to do that now. You can see the navigation is of sections. If I actually hover over each one, there's a little pop-up tick that tells you what's there. So, for example, here is the list of all our tunes. As Ray said, we're up to 944 at the moment on the site. If I pick a tune, I'm just going to pick a tune at random. I'll say the page will rearrange itself depending on the size of your screen. So at the moment it's done a side-by-side thing, but yeah. So when you view any page with a tune, you'll see it rendered as dots. That rendering is actually done in your browser. That's not an image on the live version of the site. This content here is the ABC. That is in fact the only thing that's stored on the site for this page. Everything else is actually generated on the fly. It reads that ABC file and wraps it in this pretty picture that you get to see here. Ray's already commented that for nearly all the tunes, not quite all of them, but nearly all the tunes, we have a recording, the vast majority by Greg O'Leary or Ray, so played in traditional to start. I hope you learn the tune. And I'm just about to hit the audio, so this is a Greg O'Leary one. Okay, I'll just pause that. Also, this actually comes for free with the rendering software that I use for the ABC. There's a MIDI player. It actually plays way too fast. I could slow it down, but if I just see it. Okay, I could go over here and slow it down, but I'm saying so even without the recording, you can at least have a look at the tunes. Now, I mentioned there's links down the bottom, so out of the comments in the ABC code there, here are some names that are related to the tune. So Vaughan Kyle is who it was collected from, I think. And so this is the sort of typical page that you would see about a person where we put some content in. Ray's written up quite a few of these contributions from others, so we've tried to pull in where there were sources, recordings in the National Library relating to this person you can use. And then I can say, okay, so for this person, Vaughan Kyle, here's the tunes in our database that name him as a person. So I can just go back and pick another one here. And so we've gone back. So the idea is I can ping pong back and forwards between the tune pages, between the people's pages. There's searching on the site. So I'm up here, I can say I want to search tunes. You've got two choices. I can just do a name. I'm just going to pick Sally Sloan because I'm going to use that in a second. And bang, there's a list of tunes that are ones that are related to Sally Sloan, and I could click on any of those. I'm actually just going to make a couple of pages here. Let's go back. Okay, so you can search the tunes. Oh, sorry, let me just do another tune search. So the more complex ones you can actually search by musical attributes. So I want it in the key of G. I want 3/4. I want waltzers. Sorry, come here. 3/4. Whoops.
That was
What
the
did I
length.
do?
You put 3/4 in
Main
there.
box, sorry.
What was that?
You've got meter in the length box.
Ah,
You probably want meter.
key of G, and I want meter. Oh, stop doing this to me. Okay, that's better. Okay, so all these all your 3/4 in G. So you can do that sort of search as well on the site. Something I completely run out of time here. We have list of tune collections, and mostly these are the books that Ray's put together. So here's the one that was loaded this week for this year's tune, and all that is a list of the tunes, and you can click on those and you get a tune page. But there's something that you can also do that is related to that, and that is to roll your own collection of tunes. Now this does not affect anything on the site. It will generate the tune for you, get saved on your computer. So I just mentioned before, I had a page of Sally Sloan tunes. So let's say I was going to do a workshop on Sally Sloan, and I want, yeah, it's doing stuff too fast. Copy that. Come over. Okay, I put the tunes in there. I can make it my, change a few more bits. Come here. So say you were doing a workshop on Sally Sloan, my Sally Sloan workshop. Type in some other stuff. And I've got some options here. Let me pick the ABC file. So for most people, if you have a computer, that's now giving you an ABC file with all of those tunes from Sally Sloan. You could download that and use the ABC editor on your computer to rearrange it as you like. If you're really not a computer person and are willing to live with some limitations, I can hit that. And it's just generated as a book. Oh, come here. Yeah, some titles.
Oh my
There's
God.
all the tunes. And so, as I said, that's only the content of that is actually saved in some bits on your computer. Obviously, I probably wouldn't I just threw them in alphabetical order. You'd want to rearrange them into, groups of tunes you'd play together, throws at the page. You can do all of that with that feature on the site. All right, the last thing. At the time, come back over here. So I mentioned the PDF. Let me see if I can bring this up. Okay, we need to come sideways. Okay, so I've just Okay, you can all download these. There's links from the website. So here is the draft of my PDF, just to say, got some introduction material. There's some tunes here. There's a fair bit of this interlinking, so I can actually pick the names here and actually bounce to Greg's page, bounce back to a tune. So the PDF is all internally linked. Those same links that are on the website to a degree in the PDF. Obviously the music is not there, but there's a link to take you back to the website to play the recording that's stored there and everything else. Now, let me come back to, so PowerPoint, if I can find that. Right. So where to next? We believe the current structure meets the requirements, but I am definitely open to suggestions for things that people reckon we should add in there. We're obviously going to continue to add tunes, recordings and information about people. And again, if you go there, if you know some of the people and you can give us some more content, we're not trying to replicate sources like the library, but we do want to point out to other sources. If there's sort of first or second hand information that's not down on the web, then yes, we're happy to put it in there. One of the things that's actually one of the latest ones, and I need to find out which we've got, is we've added the ability to add a link to a YouTube recording. At the moment, there's only 3 of them in there. Ray, where are they?
Bert Jamison.
Okay, I need not PowerPoint. Back here, I need one of the home pages. Oops. Home. Tunes. So what is it, Bert?
Go to Bert Jamison.
That's a set tune, isn't it?
People page.
Ah.
Go back home.
No, that's one of the
There it
videos.
is. Yeah.
Okay, I put them down. So the idea is underneath the recordings there's a video. Thanks, Rob. They're mostly yours, I think. And so here you actually have the person it was collected from playing the tune that is annotated on this page. As I said, at the moment there's only a handful of these in the system. Basically I need lists of name of tune, link to recording and a little caption that I've put underneath the bottom there. So that's something that we're still adding. Was that all you, did you want to demo any of the others or just?
I think McCoy has another one. The author, it's important to maintain authenticity, and one of the things that's really missing from all of this is links to the original recordings.
Which island is it? Rocking Chair?
Go to home, go to Eileen McCoy, and it's Apple's Father's Set Tune, I think.
Oh, okay. That's right. I think it's 41.
41, down, down.
That one.
Yep.
Is it there?
It's there.
Yeah, there it is.
Again, it's. So I'm not going to play it, we're out of time, but the idea is that one of the other newer features of the site is the ability to put these links to recordings in. We just need to get the information not going in. Okay, at this point, I think we're on our final time for questions. Encourage people to explore it and please come and tell us about your experiences. Yeah.
This is fabulous, it's mind-blowing. As a once upon a time programmer, I'm just sort of going, oh, and it works. Oh my God, it's amazing. And it brings dots up on the page. Any chance that, well, no, sorry, I'm loath to ask, can we do it for songs as well?
That's the answer is probably it could be, but I'm not sure this is the site to do it. I'll make the point the code I've written is available. If you actually download, say this. I'm back on the home page. For people who want behind the scenes stuff, there's a technical details page here. And down the bottom is the list of the links to the alternate version. So if you click on that, you get the static version that's on the computer, which I could show you on my computer here. The live scripted copies along with all the scripts in it. So this website, you could take it away, throw away all of our content and start putting your own. So if someone wanted, for example, a bluegrass site with this same sort of structure, the code's there, it's creatively common license. I'm giving it away, we're not trying to make money. you can just take it and use it, as long as you, as I said, obey the licence, which is you have to acknowledge where it came from and link back to us. And the PDF book's there, so if you want the book, it's there. You can just click on, I'm not going to click on it because I'm using Ray's web, but click on that, you get the PDF, yep.
When are you going to add the dances then, Lawrie?
Same answer. You know, this was done for Ray for Bush Traditions with the music focus. There are already websites that have dances there, so...
We need better ones.
Yeah. We could have a conversation about it, but the focus, as I said, Ray's focus, and he is trying to, you know, one of the back things here is there is a scoping for this. It could creep too far. So Ray's focus is on the collective music tradition, and we are trying to keep it to that. There's no reason why you couldn't take this sort of structure and do something else with it, but realistically, the ABC code and all of that, this is related to the music, not related to dances or dance notation. So I think that's a different problem, but yeah.
One last question on it.
Yeah. What's the problem with, because a lot of the notation is just a straight notation, but when you hear the actual music, the ornamentation is not in the notation. So what's the problem with playing that all this music is being recorded, obviously from the original person who played it? Why can't we hear that?
There are issues because those recordings, firstly I have to know where the recording is, and it has to stay stable enough so you can point it, because one of the problems with the web is stuff moves around or vanishes. A lot of it is in the National Library, and there's issues about, I'm being very careful with copyright. It's why the people pages point back to some of those interviews. And the other thing is the interviews might be a half-hour interview with, you know, half a dozen songs in it, but it's really not easy to jump into the recordings. Again, this came out of the focus of the sessions here. The recordings were focused, perhaps just let Ray, yeah.
I'd love to do that. There's heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff in the National Library. I'd love to provide a link, and for some of them I can do it. But when you go in and you've got to find that the recording is there and available, too often you go in and find out that you've got to ask and you've got to get permission. So you've got to provide a link to the particular tune. There's a lot of work involved, and I think it's a great thing to do.
I'll make the point, the ABC has a field for it. Yeah, I mean, I can link to other resources.
So this also goes back to, we recorded everything so that you could see it and hear it, but I was informed long ago that we couldn't use the stuff from the National Library without permission. And there were copyright issues around that. So, Kevin?
I'll just say something. Ex-National Library, long retired, I do not speak for the library. But before I left, one of the things we developed in Trove is the ability to point to an individual point within any of the recordings that are up there. So you're able to do that. So for the entire, say, Folk Songs of Australia Volume 1 is one of the ones that is online. Not everything's online. It takes a lot of work to get online, but everything's digitised. And there are permissions and copyright. But Folk Songs of Australia Volume 1, for instance, is one you could work it out on. It's everything that was in that Folk Songs, Meredith's first tranche of troops is online. You can go into it with Trove. I could probably provide a link to you on my phone doing that if you want it. I'll show you later how to do it.
Part of the problem though is we have 900 tunes.
You have to find it. And what you're doing, the thing that I just love about what you're doing is you are interpreting the collection. You're finding the content, you're finding places. These collections are really complex, you know. People go out in the field, Monaro went out in the field, and even those first 30 tapes, it's got stuff mixed up with other things and all sorts of things. That makes it so fascinating to dive into. And as you say, you know, if you look at their 50,000 recordings, they're all like that, because they are. It's quite difficult to find. Rob probably, he's not looking here, is he? Rob's probably the most organised, and I think Ollie did that. But mostly they are much more complex. But the work you're doing is about interpreting the collection. It's about finding the stuff and getting it there. It's brilliant from that point of view. But the tools are there to allow you to do it, but somebody has to do it. You know, there's no way of saying we can automatically, you know, we've run tools over the system, over the whole collection, and have a sort of a transcripting thing, but it's not going to transcribe an accordion player and tell you where the tune starts. So if the person listens to it and goes, link, link, puts that link into your system, it will take it to that place. As I say, I'll show you how you do that, but somebody has to do it.
Yeah.
But compliments, it's great.
I think we're well and truly out of time, so thank you very much, everyone.